faculty members and organizers of this program, and my dear participants. A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, let me confess that when I was requested by Mr. Mohan Ram to come here today and address all of you, I had mixed emotions. Two emotions. One was, of course, of honor that, they're considering me good enough to come and give a talk to you. And second thing was one of puzzlement. Why me? I'm just a banker. As she read out in the beginning, I'm just an economics graduate in economics honors. I have no certificate course or no diploma in anything related to computer information technology. So why was I being asked to come and speak on such an important subject to all of you? But be that as it may, as I said, the final emotion is one of feeling honored that I'm present here to talk on this subject. You know, in the State Bank of India, when I was there, of course, I retired as managing director in November 2014. The assignment before that, I was heading the information technology department of the bank for 2 years, from 2009 to 2011. And I feel today the issues which we are discussing today on the subject of information security or cyber security perhaps were not seen so critically 5 years back or 6 years back when I was heading the IT department. But some issues are the same. Some issues remain the same, and some issues are still relevant today as they used to be in those days. Some of these issues, if not most of them, perhaps do not really pertain to the field of information technology. They perhaps pertain more to the field of human behavior and human greed. Because even in those days, in 2008, 9 and 10, we had the famous or the infamous Nigerian scams. They still continue today, and still people are foolish enough, if I might use the word, to click on those links and try to give information to the Nigerian or to the whoever is sending the email on their bank accounts and things like that, and they get into trouble. You know, or apart from the Nigerian type of scam, also these so-called lotteries which keep coming up. Even today I get messages on my cell phone saying I have won $2 million in some lottery. So if you want to get that money, you please send 5,000 rupees or $5,000 or something to so-and-so address. And people fall for it. And people who fall for it are not ordinary, or let's say people on the street. They are informed people who should know better. I remember in State Bank of India, one such person who really felt he had won a lottery and responded to the thing was none other than the Commissioner of Income Tax in a city. He responded to that, and then he came to us saying that my bank account, they have taken the money and all that. What can we do? You're the person who gave the details, and you come to us and say that when you please get it back. So it's not as if it's the small man or the common man who is prey to all this. It's even the educated amongst us who fall prey to such very dubious schemes. The other aspect, which is perhaps again relating to human nature and behavior in connection with information security, is that of deep trust. We, as bankers, we are not supposed to trust our fellow citizens so deeply. You're giving a loan to somebody, or to make sure he's going to repay the loan. Because we trust somebody, some persons more than we trust others, perhaps we don't really look into the aspect of whether he can repay the loan or not. And I'm not referring to Dr. Malaya or anyone like that. I'm just saying in general. I'm saying in general you feel that why is it not, why are people not repaying the loan? But the trust in the computer system. The computer system is always right. That is one thing which people used to tell me way back in 2006 and 7, that this information has come from the computer, so it must be correct. So the point is that there's an old saying in information technology that if the input is garbage, output is going to be more than garbage. It's something like that. So if you believe the output is correct, you should be sure the input is also correct, but many times it's not so. In SBI, for example, when we switched over to core banking, let me tell you, it might have been the case with all public sector banks. I'm not just saying it's in SBI. When we migrated data from the old system, we had a standalone system called Bank Master, which was only a sort of branch computerization. It wasn't core banking, it wasn't a linked system. So when migrating data from Bank Master to core banking, ultimately what happened was only the final balance was correctly migrated because it is accounted. It is accounted and chartered accountants look at it. But nobody checked the static data. People put in as PAN numbers any set of letters and digits without looking into the validation. They put in as PIN numbers, PIN codes, any set of numbers which came to their mind. And most often, we saw in the data dump later on, it was 9999 or 0000. And nobody bothered to see all that. So later on, when this entire issue of KYC came up in 2008 onwards, we found that the KYC, we could not certify that the KYC is correct, because the data is totally incorrect, so which led to a huge exercise of reworking, of recollecting the data from the customers. In many cases, the customers had gone away, don't you know where they live after opening the account? So these are the issues about trusting a person more than trusting the computer. Trusting a person. In State Bank of India, again, probably, I keep referring to SBI because that's what I am familiar with. In SBI, when we shifted to core banking, as you would know, the Bank Master was just a, I don't know what to call it, a DOS-based system, whereas core banking is a Windows-based program. So people did not appreciate the difference between the two. And while migrating onto the core banking platform, they did not know how to operate it. And many times they would make errors, they would not know what to do. And then finally, it came to such a pass that the staff members, one person would log in with his password, and then other people would come and operate on that system on the user ID and login of the person who has done. Fine, very good, he has trusted his colleague to do nothing, but a lot of frauds came up. Under this man's user ID and login, X has committed a fraud, a staff member has committed a fraud in the system, and the poor fellow who gave his user login ID, he is booked. You can't prove anything, isn't it? You can't prove that he did not do the entry. So the question of trusting your fellow human being has to come to a stop, had to come to a stop at that point. So then what did we do? We said, okay, we will introduce biometric for the staff members for accessing the core banking system. They accessed core banking with biometric, then they went for a cup of tea, leaving the system open. Again, the same thing, some fellow came and did some mischief on their computer system, and this fellow got stuck. So then we had to introduce something called a timeout. If he accesses the core banking system with his biometric, with his fingerprint basically, and then the system is not, say, operating for, say, what, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. First we said, we were very drastic. I think first I said 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is impossible. I mean, you have to keep on relogging in every time, isn't it? So we, okay, said 15 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes. If you don't have any activity on the computer, it will log out. You have to again relog in with your biometric and your PIN password and all that. So all this is the development which happened. Now today it seems very small thing, a very silly thing, a very futile exercise. But this is very critical in those days when core banking was being introduced, and when people were not, people meaning the staff members, were not aware about the importance of information security. This is also part of information security. If you are leaving a system open and going away, then anything can happen in the bank. And anything did happen. A lot of frauds took place. The other thing which we did not realize in those days was, in the networking scenario, leaving the ports open. I'll give you an example. In an upcountry branch in Bihar, there was a major fraud which took place for about, in those, maybe a small amount today, but in those days 40 crores or something it happened on core banking. How did it, and what happened was, this, let us just name the towns. There is a town called Darbhanga in North Bihar. And there is a town called Ranchi, which is now in Jharkhand, which was then South Bihar. In the account of, let's say, rural electrification, the regional, what's it called? There is one. Anyway, some big PSU company in Ranchi, there were debits of 20 crores, 40 crores, and the debits happened from Darbhanga. The debits were such that it was an RTGS transfer initiated from Darbhanga on the account in Ranchi, and the amount was transferred to some XYZ individuals or one or two companies maybe nameplate companies, and within 24 hours the money was siphoned out. And this came to light because that company complained saying that we didn't raise this debit, where did it come from? 20 crores and 40 crores and all that. When we went deeper into it, what we found was, I'm just telling the end result. End result was that there was a computer technician in Darbhanga. Now in a small town like that, there are very few people, one or two people, the bank depends on him. He comes, he does the repair work, he does everything. What this man used to do was, he used to go to the ATM room. On the ATM machine or on the wall of the ATM room, there is an open port, which nobody realized. He connected his laptop to the open port, which is connected to the core banking system. And because he was coming to the bank regularly, he knew all the passwords and whatever is to be done to debit RTGS using the ID and the password of the accountant. Because accountant, after all, was a fellow of maybe nearly my age, maybe that time maybe 52, 53 or 57, about to retire. He didn't know much about all this. He used to trust this man blindly, and this money got siphoned out. Then we realized then that there is something called a port which is open in a computerized environment. It should not be open. So there should be a mapping of each and every outlet of the core banking in the branch. So then we started taking steps of blocking that port or closing the port or whatever has to be done technically, we did. But all these issues are such that unless one periodically checks and counter checks and rechecks, these things can come up again and again and again. Now, when you talk about last week's incidents of the ransomware, basically what has happened is, there are two, my knowledge is only from reading the newspapers because I don't have any in-depth knowledge of this. But what I understand is, number one, there were old operating systems of Windows which were being used, which were sort of critical, which were responsible for this, number one. And number two, in some cases, perhaps people, again, the old system of the Nigerian fraud, clicking on email links which they shouldn't click. These are the two things which led to this thing rapidly multiplying. So the question then comes, what is the cost of security? Are we going to say that it doesn't matter, that security doesn't, I will not spend, let us say, $1 million on security. I'd rather have to face all this. If that is a call which the company takes, fine, that is the company's call. But then one should realize that this is not the end of it. There is the fraudsters and the people out there are always, in my opinion, one step ahead of the establishment. If they have found a solution to deal with ransomware, WannaCry now, tomorrow there's going to be some other person, some other loophole which is going to be exploited. So there is, in my view, there is no cost to security. Security is imperative. If you live in a house, if you live in your own house, are you going to make any compromise on the type of latches you put, on the bolts you put? You might as well leave your door open and say nothing's going to happen. We'll take the chance as it comes. The thing is that security is something which should be ingrained in each and every one of us. And courses such as these, I'm sure, will help in spreading this message. And finally, one more point I'd like to make is, again, the point of which I started out with, that you need to educate the people who are working in the bank. You need to educate the people who are the customers of the bank or the institution, and tell them what is wrong or what they shouldn't be doing and what they should be doing in terms of computer security. That's why you keep seeing ads, banks do not ask for your password, banks will not ask for your PIN number. It keeps coming because people get conned again and again. Somebody will call from the call center, so-called call center, and say, give me your PIN number, give me your ATM card number, there is some mistake, I want to rectify it. And many people, they fall prey to such schemes. Even today, I'm not talking of 10 years back when this was quite unusual. Even today it happens. Even today people get conned, and they should be educated. So apart from programs such as these where people from the financial system are educated, are trained in this area, I'm sure people like you can spread the message back amongst your colleagues as well as amongst your customers, amongst the general public, that this is what has to be done, this is what should be done, and this is what you should not do in terms of computer security. That's all I wanted to say. I want to wish all of you all the very best, and I also like to thank Professor Gopan for having given me this opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much.